Hi guys, Rich from Trackspark here. Hope you're all well, and looking forward to Christmas. Yeah, love Christmas. Yeah, so have a happy December, and I'll apologise quickly first because I've got a tiny bit of man flu. But so if I start coughing and spluttering, then yeah, I'll apologise. I'm not going to press stop and restart this tutorial just because of that. But anyway, let's get on with today's tutorial. I've named it EQing your bottom end. So that's one of the issues, sorry, not issues, one of the things I want to talk about. And also there's something else that sort of sprung from that, which was listening in context to your mix. So I'm sure we're all guilty of soloing instruments and making them sound amazing, and then unsoloing them, and then hearing that there are other instruments in the mix that have similar frequencies or frequency crossover, and everything just becomes a bit of a blurry mess or muddy, because we've not taken into consideration the relationships between those similar frequencies from the instruments. So yeah, let's have a quick listen to the track, and then we'll dive into it. Okay, so it's a bit of a sort of a downbeat house dancey tune, or alternative sort of music, alternative dance. So it's got a straight 4 on the floor sort of dance beat. Right, so let's take a look at the things I want to look at today. So we've got our kick. So this orange track here that says kick, and then we've got our sub. And then this sampler track here, which is another sort of bass synth element. So typically nowadays most people use sort of 2 bass elements, at least 2. They'll layer up bass elements, and I've just got 2 here. One would be sort of our sub, for example, and then another one would be to give the bass sound more bite, or a body. And then so what we want to do is decide what frequencies we want from these, and how they're going to work against each other, and how they're going to work again with the kick. So firstly, let's just listen to these on their own. Okay, so that's how they sound on their own, and I should firstly say on the sub, I've actually got some side chain compression happening from the kick drum, which gives the kick and the sub more room to work together anyway. But I've done other tutorials on that, so check them out if you don't know what that is. And then, right, so let's listen to each instrument or each element on its own, and see sort of what frequencies, where the frequency sweet spots are, and how I'm going to sort of work each one into between each other, if that makes sense. Okay, so here's the kick. Why is that not working? Let's go back. There we go. So looking at this frequency analyzer, we can see that the kick, the sweet spot of the kick, there is around sort of 70 hertz. There's stuff going on below it, and then there's obviously stuff going on above it as well. So now if we go and have a look at the sub, I'm just going to turn all of these EQs and things off that I've put on, and we can listen to it and then see what I do. Okay, so here's the sub. So the sweet spot is sort of around the 45 to 50 hertz sort of mark here, which is good because that's lower than the sweet spot of the kick. So that's a good start anyway. Right, now let's listen to this other one. Right, I'm just going to turn these off. Right, okay. There's an EQ. So it's got a bit more bite and a bit more grip to it. But again, the sweet spot or the bulk of the frequency is coming from around sort of 45 to 50, between 40 and 50 hertz, similar to the sub. So what I'm instantly going to do there is I'm going to sort of put a high pass filter on, because we know that this sound is going to be the bite and the body of the bass, whereas the sub is going to be the much lower frequencies. So I don't need any of those lower frequencies. So anything sort of look below 70 and 50, I've completely rolled off. So it's not going to double over or spill over into the subs frequencies. I'm also going to double that. I'm also going to emphasize that with these EQs here. So I've rolled off even more of that so that it fits with the sub. Now let's look at the sub again. Now there's not, there's not a lot going on above the sort of 150, and it sounds pretty nice on its own. But if I just want to listen to them together, now if I put this low pass on, we've still got all the bottom end frequencies that I wanted from the sub, but I've given the other bass sound much more room to work, so there's no more clashing there, so that's good. And then if we just remind ourselves, what was the it's doing it again, it's not working for some reason. What's going on? There we go. It was around sort of 70, so I'm going to carve out some more space for the kick drum there in this sort of bass, around the sort of 70-80 hertz mark, just to give it a bit more room. And we've sort of done that anyway here. We know that the main sort of sweet spot is lower than the kick drum. So now to work on the kick drum, I'm just going to, I don't want any of the low frequencies to clash with the sub, so I'm obviously shelving out. I've put a high pass on the kick drum, and I've just boosted it a little bit just to give it a bit more punch at around the 70. Here we go, 70. Just make that better. Okay, just to give it that bit more punch. So now if we solo the three together, we know that they're working a bit better together. If I was to take these EQs off, which is what I should have done and played you this in the first place, let's listen now. Let's put them back on. Instantly hear that each one of those instruments is doing its own job and frequency wise, and there's a lot less muddiness and clashing going on. So hope that was good. And then the other thing that I wanted to sort of mention was, let's listen to this kick drum now on its own. So to me it sounds okay and it sounds sort of punchy, but if I was to take this off, what I did before, I think what I did before I was in the mix earlier, I didn't have this low shelf on. I actually sorry, this high pass on, I had a low shelf on, so it was more like this. Just make it nice and punchy, and give it some nice bottom end and make it really big. But so that was, but I wasn't listening to that in relation to the sub. Now if I make this back to a high pass, the kick becomes much clearer and the sub is doing its own thing now. So the relationship between the two is much more controlled and much better. As you know, even though the kick before sounded nice, with that sort of low shelf boosted up, it didn't work in relation to everything else that was going on. So that rule there in itself should sort of be applied to pretty much everything, any instrument in your mix. Make sure, yes, you can solo it, yes, you can fine tune it, and make sure, you know, you're cleaning out any problem sort of areas, problem frequencies, or just to make sure it's sounding a little bit nicer than maybe the original sort of source material. But then as soon as you've done that, or make sure you solo in and unsolo in and listen it in context with the whole mix and with the other instruments that have, you know, the same frequencies or frequency crossovers, so that you're avoiding all this clutter and muddiness. So I hope that was good, guys, and yeah, happy Christmas. I will speak to you in 2018, sorry. Get ahead of myself there. 2018. Cheers, guys. Bye.